Well, ho, 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 it's snowing outside and it is two guys and a lot of wines. 8th holiday special. And I want to thank you all for joining me. Jim unfortunately could not make it down because of the snow, but I am joined by two very good friends and actually you're regulars now on the show. Rocky Holland and Sandy
my first
Holland.
rodeo, that's for
yes,
sure.
Yes, exactly right. From the West Hartford Wine Club and fantastic wine connoisseurs.
And I'll tell you, it is beginning to look a lot like Christmas out there.
It
huh?
is,
because we slept over here in the snow.
And we've usually kept it serious over the last 7 holiday shows. But you know what? I said, heck with that. We're going to be a little bit kitschy this time, a little bit light. Sandy is lit up cheers. Rocky has the Santa Claus shirt on.
You can't really see. It's like the belt right here. I don't know.
And I have
kind of looks like a red shirt.
The reindeer antlers on.
Best.
But even though we are a little bit kitschy, the wine on the table tonight is just as good as it's been every year. It might even be a little bit better. We have some fantastic stuff that we'll be tasting tonight. And I want to thank Rocky and Sandy for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
I'm now going to take off my antlers because they are making my head sweat. So there we go.
Yes.
So it is 2018, and over the last 7 years we've been doing the show, or the last 7 holiday shows, we've usually stuck to bubbles as the format. So, and we're sort of doing that this time. And I know Rocky and Sandy have brought in 2 delicious bubbles, which I'm looking forward to, and I have a bubbles we'll be starting off with. And we're going to finish off with a strong 100% Malbec that is a 92 pointer. It is in the top, it's one of the top wines under $20 right now in the country. And I think my guests are going to be blown away by it. I know I was when I tasted it, and I'm looking forward to what their opinions are. And what we're going to be starting off with tonight is a Poema cava. And I think Rocky and Sandy, I think we all agree that cavas are fantastic.
Yes, they are. Yes.
And this was my choice for our holiday show for 2018. It's from Spain. It's a small batch cava produced in the traditional champagne method. Yep. And it's, when I tasted it, has a wonderful light taste. It's on the drier side because it is a brut. We did cheat. We tasted a little bit beforehand.
We got a little overzealous.
Got a little overzealous because of the holidays.
Yes.
And the snow.
And the snow. I just got through pushing a lot of snow off my car, so.
Beautiful, beautiful light rosé
cava,
which is what I like to see in my cavas. Rosés, that is.
It's almost orange.
It does have a bit of an orange tinge to it. And you said that, I'll admit, I've never heard of the grape that you said that this is made with.
Yeah, I wrote it down because I hadn't either. It's the...
Most of the cava is made with Xarello and Macabeo.
And this is the Trepat.
Yeah, so this is 100% Trepat, right?
100%.
So this is definitely this has a different taste profile from cava that I'm used to. And if I had to, what would you say that this smells like when you
bread?
It's definitely got some bread, and so the bread comes, of course, because they make it the same way that method champagne whites. They leave the yeast in there, and the yeast lyses autolysis, and it creates that lovely bread that some people can't stand, but that I love in sparkling wine. But
I get a little Granny Smith just at first.
I get a little honey, which is interesting because normally that's a note that you would get from botrytis, which is definitely not happening in this, but fruit, a little bit of like a peach.
Well, what I liked about this, and like I said, this is available. You have to look for it. I don't think it's available here locally in town, West Hartford area. I found this down in the New Canaan area. But if you do a search online, I'm sure it can come up and you can at least buy it somewhere.
Absolutely delicious.
But for the quality, like I said, it's highly rated. It's actually extremely difficult to get sometimes because it's so popular. It's in the price point of $14 to $17.99.
Yeah. Nice.
Which is
you can't beat cava for a bargain. I mean, it's incredible.
And what I like about this particular one is, when I tasted this one, it was also they were also sampling actual champagne, some champagne rosés and champagne, and it certainly compete with the $30, $40, $50 bubbles.
They put a lot of work into it. You said this is a single vineyard as well. Yeah, they put a lot of work into the cava, the same way that they do in France. So, and it shows in the product.
And I also chose it because it has a little festive color. It's a little on the pinker side.
Very
festive.
Yep. And like I said, for me, especially during the holidays, whether it's Christmas or New Year, you could never go wrong with the bubbles.
Absolutely.
I agree.
So.
And disclaimer: I did not saber any of these, as Bob can attest here. I
Tops are still on all.
I am not very good at savoring bottles. I found out the hard way the other day when one exploded on me.
Not completely true, Rocky. First of all, Rocky and Sandy, by the way, for next year they have a wonderful Halloween party at West Hartford Wine Club. Please look them up online.
Halloween party.
Halloween party, that's right, Halloween
Play on
party.
words. Yeah.
And Rocky did actually savor a bottle of bubbles, which I saw online, which he did quite successfully.
Absolutely.
This was my third time savoring. The first two went swimmingly, and then I got cocky.
He did get cocky. I think that's what
And
it was.
I also put the bottle in the freezer, which for those of you at home,
Don't do that.
Don't want to put the bottle in the freezer if you're planning on savoring it. In fact, if you're going to open it the normal way, you don't want to put it in the freezer and pop it because it's
So I'm assuming because
the
the
pressure
extreme
builds
cold on the
up,
glass and stuff like that.
pressure builds up.
But it was still quite spectacular to see the bottle.
It was, yeah, it was spectacular. I headed upstairs and got some Band-Aids to put over my hand that got cut open. But
Because
hey,
you guys didn't tell me you were
it's
doing that.
all learning experience, and it was all in fun, and I wasted a perfectly good $23 bottle of
Well, it was
sparkling.
a great, once
Yeah.
again, your second one, it was a great Halloween party. Even though I did not win this year for best Halloween costume,
yeah.
there were a lot of good costumes this year. So
Yeah.
the winner did deserve it. I think that was Vivian.
Vivian was
Zorro was-
one, and then Kate and Brad were the other
Yeah,
winners.
fantastic. So thank you again for that great party.
By the way, if you want to know what a wine lover Bob here is, I was holding the severed bottle, and there was shards going like this and this, and he's looking at it going, well, we could still probably drink this part down here.
you know,
I'm
you-
like, no, I
pour it
don't
into
think
a glass,
I mean,
you'd be able to
we
see
probably
through any
could.
glass.
Filter
We
it
could have
out.
like filtered it through cheesecloths.
That's
or
true.
something. Like we're not going to waste wine. We might have to waste this
We're
one.
moving on to the next one.
We are moving on to the next one. And I'm going to let Rocky and Sandy talk about this one because this is one of their choices.
I'm actually going to let Rocky talk about it since he picked it out, and I will pour.
The
for
only
you
thing that
while
I
he
know
does
about
that.
this is that it comes from Anderson County, which I believe, or it comes from Anderson Valley, which I believe is in Monterey County.
Rodeer, though, I think people have heard. I think it is in the stores, but this particular one is a little different, right?
Yeah, it's I had the notes on it. It's a Wine Spectator Top 100 of 2017. So, 93 points. Robert Parker, not to be confused with Ray Parker, the writer of the Ghostbusters song. So
Oh, this is
can't
interesting.
go wrong.
That's a nice golden, like a wheat color.
Yes,
And
it
I-
almost looks like beer,
Yes.
a little bit.
I don't know the method that they use to make this. I know that a lot of California stuff, they just infuse the bubbles with this. They call it the soda method.
Oh.
So I'm assuming if this is actually a pretty decent bottle. I'm assuming they didn't do that. I probably should have done my homework
He
before I
didn't do
brought
it
this
somehow.
bottle in, but it was kind of a
So what do
last
we
minute
think of
thing.
it?
Right off the bat, this has a much more champagne-y characteristic.
Yeah.
Even though the first rosé, the cava, had that little bit of yeast that we familiar
Yeah.
with for champagne.
Yeah.
This is a little bit stronger,
Yeah.
which I happen to like. I sort of like that.
Yeah, I love that. What do you get from smell? on
I'm
this
trying
one?
to figure out what it is. It's almost like a rose petal or something, which
It's so tough with the sparkling because when it has that bread yeast quality to it, the fruit is hidden somewhere beneath it, but
Yeah.
the bread quality tends to mask it. So you're standing there going, well, I'm on public access right now with my nose stuck in this glass, and I've got no answers for anyone at home that wants to know what this smells like.
The only thing I can say it smells like, this one I do get a tad bit of honey.
It does.
And
This
just
one
a
also
tad
has
bit of apricot.
apricot.
I mean, very,
Yeah.
very mild.
It's kind of like a orchard fruit, like a peach, apricot, apple, maybe a.
You know, I'd be remiss, here we are doing a holiday show both for Christmas and New Year's. The show's going to be airing in December. And this is the kind of things you're going to start off the evening with. So you're going to be pairing both these, if you went this route, with cheeses, light hors d'oeuvres, mushroom-based or maybe chicken-based. And both of these, I think, would pair perfectly with that to start off.
absolutely.
Yeah, this is good.
It's
This is
funny
better than I
if
thought it
if
would
you
be.
look at the bottles. We open these around the same time, and if you see this after being open for a little while, the bubbles have started to dissipate, but this one's still holding pretty strong.
That's
in the
interesting.
bottle.
You're right. And what is the rule on that with bubbles when it comes? Is real champagne finer bubbles or what's
It doesn't have to do with the bubbles. It has to do with the pressure in the bottle, and I can't remember the number of atmospheres that it has to produce on the sides of the bottle, where they draw the distinction between frizzante and sparkling wine. But
And what was the price point of
I
this
don't
one?
remember. This one was in the $25 range, 24, 26. somewhere
So
around
now
there,
we're at the
so-
point where when we get to that price point for a sparkling, you're in almost a range for your basic champagne. I know there are champagnes in the 28 to 29
You can
range.
get, yeah. It's not going to be cru champagne, but it's going to be
But just like we've always talked about in the shows in the past when we've done a holiday show or just a bubble show, you don't want to base anything on cost. You want to base it on flavor.
Right.
And when it comes to the sparklings or anything with effervescence in it,
absolutely.
always judge it by what your palate says.
Yep.
And I don't even know what the alcohol content is, if there's a difference between a sparkling and a champagne. Probably not that significant. Maybe half a
Most
point?
sparkling wines have a little bit lower alcohol than does a normal flat wine. Typically in the 11 to 12 percent alcohol range. Not all of them. I'd say this one right here is probably a bit higher because it's Shiraz. Yeah, 13.1% alcohol. And I looked up. I realized I looked up the wrong tasting notes. This is the non-vintage. They have one of these. The 2017 vintage was 16.1% alcohol, which
Wow.
for a sparkling wine is
That's off the
almost
charts.
dessert
that's
wine.
anything above 16 is technically dessert wine. So it's a dessert sparkling wine. This one's not. This one's 13.1. So I'd be curious to taste it. It's been a long time since I've had this one. So
Well, I also wanted to thank you both because the show is so special for the 8th annual holiday show. I was doing a quick tabulation, and I think since we filmed our first show, I think in November of 2010, just a quick tabulation, I think we've tasted on this show well over 340 bottles
Wow.
of wine.
well,
And,
you, sir, have an expanded, sophisticated palate.
Well, not really. It's just, I don't know if it's expanded sophisticated. It's just, I think it's something that really you don't think about until you start analyzing how long I've been doing the show. And even with you guys on the show, I think this is your 5th appearance, probably 5th or 6th.
Somewhere
Sandy?
around there, yeah.
4th or 5th for you.
Yeah.
And if you just look at it that way, just in the time you've been on the show, that's 20 bottles we've tasted
Wow.
as a group
Yep.
too. And none of them have been the same, which is why I've loved doing the
Wow.
show. And we've never had a repeat. One time we did, I think it was actually during a holiday show. Still very controversial and it's very thrown in my face. I had a Russian sparkling on the show. And
Russian
it was
sparkling?
Russian sparkling.
Did it have vodka in it?
No, it wasn't. Actually, I
I
guess
didn't know they made wine in Russia, but
It was
I guess they make
made-
wine everywhere. But
it's a celebratory Russian champagne sparkling that they drink since the Stalin era.
wow.
And but it was awful.
Go
It
figure.
tasted like petrol, and it
Communist.
was kind of flat
Yes.
the first time. Then I brought it back another time 2 years later, thinking that I had a bad bottle. I had to go to New Britain to get it because they have a big Polish population. Liquor Depot there sort of brings in a lot of European
Eastern
wines.
Europe, yeah.
So I bought another bottle, and it was just as bad. Okay. So I've never lived that down, and Jim always throws that in my face when we do the champagne show. But I still think there's hope for that Russian champagne. I'm going to try it again, just I didn't want to do it this year. So, all right, so I think this one, thumbs up. I think it's fantastic.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah,
It's
yeah,
delicious.
absolutely. Oh, speaking of bad wine, for those of you at home, this is the 15th of November, which is Beaujolais Nouveau Day. First day that Beaujolais Nouveau comes out.
not
So
bad.
if you like the, most of it's bad, some of it's good.
Tastes like
So,
bubble gum
I don't know
and
if you've ever-
bananas.
If you've ever had a Beaujolais
We
Nouveau
did.
show.
Yep, we had a Beaujolais show. I want to say 3 years ago, but time gets away from me. The wine is, like you said, one note.
The Beaujolais itself, the Cru Beaujolais, which is in the north part of Beaujolais, they have there's 10 crus. That stuff's actually pretty good. The Nouveau that comes out on the 15th is, it's a lot bit cheaper, typically in the $6 to $11 price range, and it tastes like bubble
That's
gum.
that's the grape
And-
that Lucy was
but it's-
stomping on,
yeah,
right?
and
I
it
love
is,
Lucy.
it is
Yes.
very fruity, very festive, and gives you very big headaches. So anyway, I just thought I would pay a little homage to the French. Today is the Beaujolais Nouveau Day. I felt remiss if I didn't mention that. So
Thank you very much, Rocky.
yes.
So we're moving from more traditional sparkling wines,
Yes.
which is a rosé and the golden color, and then we're going to go to a red sparkling, which is
I'm
not
really
what people
and this
typically
isn't-
see.
Yeah, I think of Lambrusco, but this is nothing like a Lambrusco.
Nothing
right?
like Lambrusco.
No, it's not.
So actually, the bottle kind of looks like 4th of July.
Yes.
It's called Out
We're
of the
being-
Park.
We're being festive,
let you
but
pour that
6
one.
months off. So.
And
So
what
this is a sparkling Shiraz. We got this, we went to a wine tasting at the Bottle Stop, which is in Avon. We typically don't travel outside of West Hartford. We decided to go on a little field trip.
We did.
And this was one of the last wines that we tried of the night.
How do you pronounce it?
This?
Yeah. is it-
Flegenheimer?
I don't know.
Flegenheimer
Brothers.
Die
um,
Flegenheimer. Hey.
So it's a sparkling Shiraz from South Australia. I got a lot of jammy flavors, blueberry. Rocky and I felt very different about this wine, so I thought it would be a fun one to bring to you
See,
and
that
get
just
your opinion.
slaps me in the face with blackberry when I,
I get blueberry.
you know,
Same idea.
it's got kind of a burnt, I think it's got kind of like a burnt toast thing going on to it.
You know what I get? I get a sweet stout. Sort of
Oh.
almost like a Irish, one of those dark
Yeah.
Irish beers.
I could definitely see that.
Not as bitter, but
But kind of like a vanilla note to it.
absolutely.
It's got a vanilla note, and it is, how would I describe, it's blueberry. Yeah, now that I taste it, it's definitely
The
blueberry.
thing is, there's a
It's
little
very-
bit, there's blueberry on the front, but then when you finish, the finish has a little bit of spice in the back.
Yep.
And I think that's why I like this for a holiday wine, because you get a little, just
Yeah,
that little
absolutely.
bit of like holiday spice in the back of your mouth when you swallow it.
Yeah, and this is, you know, when Jim's on the show, he likes talking about food and pairing and wines and stuff like that. I don't do quite as much because he's more of a cook than me, but this is the kind of wine that I'd be a little hesitant to pair with a holiday meal.
I don't know that I would put this with my holiday dinner.
Yeah.
I think this would be a fun wine to have on your dessert table
With like
because
some
it's a little on the
blueberries
sweeter
with,
side. It's
blueberries with
very fruity.
whip.
It's very jammy.
It's interesting. I don't think it's very sweet. It's slightly sweet.
Yeah,
But
I
it
don't
is
know what
fruity.
I would be kind of curious to know what the residual sugar is on this, which is the method that they use in the wine business to describe the amount of sweetness that goes to it. I would say it's probably not considered dry, but it's certainly not considered sweet either. Maybe a little slightly off dry.
So this isn't, because even though it's a sparkling, it's not labeled like brut or extra dry or anything like that.
Right.
How would they label, how is it labeled that you even know it's sparkling?
It
Right.
just says sparkling Shiraz.
That's
right
all
on
it
the
says
label.
right on the label.
Yeah.
I'm not
Yep.
familiar with
Does
the
it say it on the front?
sparkling rules
Yes,
for
okay.
McLaren Vale.
Yeah, right there, sparkling.
Yep, sparkling
So-
Shiraz. So this is, and this is non-vintage. A lot of your sparkling wine, champagne and otherwise, is non-vintage, which is just, you take some from 2016, 15, 17, you mix it all together, you get the appropriate thing. And so this is not a, I think what they typically do, I don't know if they do this in McLaren Vale, South Australia, but what they typically do is they only mark a vintage if it's a special vintage. If the weather's just right, that's what they do with the champagne. So when you see a vintage champagne, you know that that was a year that everything came together. And they said this we want to express just by itself. So, but typically most of your sparklers are non-vintage.
Actually, even some of the higher priced bubbles and champagne I've had over the decades, I haven't had many vintage champagnes.
Yeah, those get a bit
pretty
pricey.
pricey, I'm assuming.
Yeah, those do get a bit pricey, but.
Well, I have to say, I like this.
Is it a thumbs up for you?
I'm giving it a thumb sideways. I think because we had it towards the end of our tasting that
Everything
we were at,
tastes
and
good
we
then.
already tasted like, you know, when you have like a Barolo and then you step in and taste a sparkling Shiraz, to me that's you
This
can't.
is not something I
really
would
do that.
drink just every day, but I think it's a fun party wine. It's a little bit different. It's got bubbles. Bubbles are always fun.
And
Just bring something different to the
Because it
party.
is a holiday show, and because we usually always have bubbles, I think because it's so unique, we've certainly never had one like that on the show. The closest we've ever had to a dark sparkling is Lambrusco.
Yep.
And I think you had a Lambrusco. You brought the
Yes,
Lambrusco
I
on.
love Lambrusco.
Which
yeah.
everybody loves the Lambrusco, so I mean, you can't go wrong with that. But this is unique enough where I would say that I would consider this in my mix
Yeah.
for interesting sparklers
Yep.
for the holidays.
Do you remember the
Definitely
price point on this? Because it was the end of our night.
$20 somewhere around there,
Around there.
21 something like that. It wasn't outrageous. So
It's unique enough where I certainly think, and you can find this locally. You said,
yes,
Yes, Bottle
This was
Stop.
at
We
Bottle
found
Stop
this
in
at the
Avon,
Bottle Stop in Avon.
yeah.
but
Well, like I said, I think it's unique enough to, and it would be a hit, I think, on most people's, if not Christmas table, definitely New Year's.
New
I think
Year's,
people
yeah.
really like the uniqueness
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah,
So,
I think that this was, I mean, the typical American palate likes really sweet stuff. This isn't sweet, but people get fooled by the fruit.
Fruit.
You can have something dry that is fruit driven that people go, wow, that's sweet. No, it's not sweet. It doesn't have a lot of sugar in it. This is one of those wines where a lot of people would think that this is sweet, but it's really not that sweet because it's so fruit driven.
I can tell you right now, I'm very sensitive to overly sweet wines, and I can say that it is not sweet on my palate.
Yeah.
So I would have no problem consuming vast amounts of quantity of that particular wine. The only thing I'll say, and I think you guys would agree, when you are drinking a lot of sparkling, you sort of have to mix it up. You don't spend your whole night just drinking a sparkling.
Yep.
Because it's just a little too overwhelming,
Yeah.
I think. It's too much
To me
sugar.
it is, yeah.
And you really won't enjoy it, especially if you're drinking some expensive stuff. mix it up a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, have a glass or two, then go to a white wine or a red.
Yep.
But if you just stick to bubbles or champagne, that's just a headache ready to happen.
That
Yes.
is a hangover, yeah.
Yeah.
I can attest to the fact that some of the worst hangovers I've ever had were sparkling induced.
I
Which is
think that
funny
was the
because-
case for us, myself too,
Yeah.
and my wife. We just overdid the champagne and it was not pleasant.
Yeah, I don't know the science behind it, but there is a science behind what the carbonation does as far as like the way it affects your body and your brain and your ability to process. So
I never drink too much, so I don't know what you're talking about.
So before we even get into the last wine on the table tonight, I have to talk about it a little bit because I was so excited about this one. We always try to have a little bit pricier stuff for the holiday show. But at the same time, because we weren't being overly formal like in the past, we've done tuxedos and whatnot, I wanted to have a wine that drank like a $50 or $60 bottle of wine, but it was an approachable price point and still was highly rated. I found one, Rocky and Sandy. I did.
Very good.
So the Gascon is a 100% Malbec. I think it's a 2016. I can't see the year, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. It's in the top 20 for wines in the United States right now.
Wow.
For great values, 92 pointer from pretty much every wine magazine in the country. It is a powerful, big red Malbec. And if you like your Spanish wines, I just couldn't believe what this tasted like at the price point, which was, I think, $15 or $16.99.
Wow.
This is going to, in my opinion, drinks like a $50, $60 bottle of wine.
Okay.
And I haven't had a lot of Spanish wines in that price point, but the ones I did, this is up there. So let me make sure everybody's glass is completely empty before I pour this. Okay, would you pass that down to me?
You
And I'll start with
do
Sandy.
the honors.
Thank you.
Now this particular wine is also, you can find it, you might have to look for it. I found this also in the New Canaan area when I was down at one of my accounts. And they were doing a tasting in the store. They had this and I think 2 other Spanish wines. But the reviews on this one were so spectacular that I couldn't resist.
It's very good.
And
Yeah.
for the price point, I could certainly
It's elegant.
understand.
Yeah.
Elegant, I like
Yep.
that.
This is because a lot of your Malbecs can be in your face, and the color alone, I'm looking at it, it's like Pinot Noir.
It's almost like Pinot Noir, yeah.
I mean, some of the tasting notes, I mean, we
Light
got
and
blackberry,
elegant and- yeah,
blueberry,
definitely blackberry, blueberry.
mocha, oak, chocolate, earthy, smoky, leather. A lot of sophisticated characteristics that one might not expect for a Malbec. But I think that's why this one has been so highly rated, because it's so complex and it's so smooth at the same time that it's
Very
just unbelievable.
It's so good. I'm gonna have a little bit more.
It is good. There's definitely an earthy flavor to it.
Try to.
So would you put this at your holiday table for dinner,
Well, it's funny you should mention
depending
that.
on what you're having?
Here's the deal, and it's funny you should ask that question, because Jim and I have had this conversation in the past. Holiday meals can be interesting. If you're an Italian and you have more of an Italian type spread,
Yep.
you can pair a red wine.
Yep.
If this is for like Thanksgiving and you're a big turkey and ham, I don't know if a red big bird's not going to pair very well.
I
with
don't
that.
know about this with turkey, but if I'm sitting at my Christmas table and I have a roast beef, I
Oh,
think
God.
this would go very
Oh,
well. It
absolutely.
would definitely cut through the fat in a roast beef.
And it's not cloying. It has a beautiful finish.
Yep.
You know, I have some of the notes here, and it's among the top 8% of all wines in the world right now.
Wow.
It's featured in best wines under $20 in the country right now, in the entire country. And you can find this now in Connecticut if you do some searching, under $20 in the $15 to $17.99 range.
Yeah.
I don't think here in town, but you can order, as long as you live in Connecticut, you can have it shipped. So I would strongly recommend looking at this one because it really drinks like a much more expensive wine, in my opinion.
It definitely feels like a special occasion wine. I agree.
Generally, you don't get a lot of complexity in certain price. You know, you get to that price point, Rocky, you know, you guys are both wine experts. There's a price point where you don't expect complexity, but sometimes you get surprised and you get that wine in that $15 to $20 range where you say, wow, this is drinking more like a more expensive, complex wine.
Yeah, and what it is for me is that you take a sip of wine that you typically, and I'm not going to say that a wine that costs $10 a bottle is terrible. The average bottle price in the United States right now is $7. That's what the consumer wants. But when you get, under that kind of $15 price range, you take a sip, might be delicious. but it's instantly gone. There's
Yep.
nothing, there's no, okay, I just took this sip and now I'm tasting blueberry. Oh, look, there's some blackberry. Oh, there's some leather. There's some this, there's some that. That's, to me, what separates some of the more expensive bottles that you get upwards of $20, $30, $40. So when you can find one like this, and this does have those characteristics for, you said this is what, $16?
I think it was 15 or 16.
15 or
yeah.
$16, and it has the characteristic of you taste it and it develops
Yeah,
as
you
you're
put the glass down and you still taste it.
and you're still experiencing something after you've tasted it. So
I think that's a good way of looking at it, because we haven't said that a lot, but the character keeps developing after you've drank the wine.
Yeah.
And this is one of those wines where you don't have to necessarily be consuming food. You can just be sitting around having a conversation like we are and just enjoying the wine and talking about what the aftertaste is still doing in your mouth.
I mean, I just took a sip, and that was with a mouthful of cheese. Sorry, everyone at home. And I'm still tasting it. What's
Yeah.
it been 20 seconds, 30 seconds? So, I mean, that's
Delicious.
that's a pretty good finish on that. So I would say that that's a definite.
So I got to say, in our remaining couple minutes of the show here, everything's been spectacular. I don't think we didn't have one dud on the show at all.
I had 3 ups and 1 sideways because I'm not a big fan of Shiraz in general. I love Syrah itself, but the Shiraz, two places they call it Shiraz, South Africa and Australia, and those typically are just, for me, it's a little bit too much blueberry, blackberry.
I think in Australia they call it Shiraz.
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 Shiraz, I believe. But the Syrah that comes from like France, Northern Rhone, that's some of the best wines. For you're not going to get those for $18, $16, but I do.
Do
like
we have
the
a
grape.
favorite on the table? Or they're so different that it's hard
They're
to
all so
pick?
different. I'm not going to pick a favorite this time because it's the holiday and they're all good in their own unique way. So I'm not going to pick a favorite. I might after the show. But right now they're all good.
I'll have to say the 2 that you brought were superb.
Yeah.
So those
Good
would
start and a
probably
good
be-
finish.
I want to thank you both
hard
for
to-
joining me on this very special
Thanks for having us
8-year,
again.
8th anniversary, or 8th show for the holiday filming for wine. And it's been a pleasure doing it all these years, and I look forward to you guys being on the show again. And also, WHETV's silent auction and gala is coming up in March. There'll be more information on that. I think it's at the Pond House again this year, and we had a blast last year. Rocky and Sandy, hopefully you'll be joining us this year.
Yeah, we couldn't make it last year.
You couldn't make it last year. This year, please come by. There's some great auction items, and it's just an all-around good time. So we're really looking forward to that. So are you guys doing anything for the holidays, or just keeping it close to family?
We have the kids on Christmas Eve.
Pretty much just
So-
hanging out at home and
We'll be doing the family thing at
doing
home.
the family thing.
Doing the family thing as I will be.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I want to thank everybody
This
for
is what
watching.
we'll be doing right here.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
I want to thank everybody for watching. I want to thank my guests once again for coming on the show in this first major snowstorm of 2018.
Too early.
Yes.
And
Well, they're watching this. What is it? It's going to be December.
It'll be December. I'm sure there
they're
might
like,
be some more.
we're
Still
already
too early."
past the. We've had the snowblower out 5
so
times.
guys, join me. Thanks for watching. 2 Guys and a Lot of Wine. Happy holidays. Until next time, keep all of us in your wine cellar.